So hello, it's time for another video. I want to talk about stop anxiety in sport, and if you have anxiety about your health, because anxiety comes in many different forms. And I'm listening to a book on Audible by the Speakmans, using the Audible app, and just say I'm not sponsored by them. It's just a great platform for books, because you can get some free books. You get like credits a credit each month, which is superb for me, because if I don't fancy reading the book, then I've got a book to listen to. And they talk a lot about anxiety and different forms, and I'm on this section where they talk about OCD. And OCD is basically where you are obsessed with, your fingernails have not been dirty. It can be you constantly washing your hands too much, and there's so many different forms in terms of like sport. Because I remember when running the football team, there was one little kid who's now a man, who was, when I was coaching the football team, I can't believe how long ago it was now, but he was very wary about playing football when we would have our football matches on a Saturday. And so I said, that's fine, he can just come along to the training, and if he decides, we'll still register him as a player, because that's what you have to do when you run a football team, even at youth level. You still have to, of course, get to know all the players, but it's also. And so did little David. David was, he just obviously had this fear about playing in the match. So that's what I did, and then eventually he decided that he wanted to go on. So it is so mental health. It's not really an excuse for somebody to lash out at anybody. And when you have lack of confidence when playing sport, it's not really targeted to anybody around you. It's because of you're kind of fearful of what if, and people need to find their own feet. And so that's one thing when it comes to sport anxiety, is that because who's the tennis player? What's his name? I can't think of his name, but he always wipes his forehead. You know what he does that for? When I used to have my training, when I worked for a call centre, and I was talking about, certain things and how people behave and react. And it's not really a cause of. For me, I stopped playing football because somebody turned around and said I couldn't even kick a ball, and that's when I said, I'm not going to play football anymore. And that's what I mean. Because somebody's told they hurt you, you've kind of gone, oh, come on, but go away then. But that's not the answer. Sometimes you have to stick to things in order to find your feet. And if you are suffering from sports anxiety, we look at Torres, for example. He was bought by Chelsea from Liverpool for £50 million, and he wasn't even top form. One season, when he was at Liverpool, he was getting goals after goals, and then suddenly it stopped. Not only he knows what really went on, obviously, but in seeing that, it just goes to show that even when you're a £50 million player, you can still have anxiety. And so how do you fix that? So like I did with one of the kids, David, I said, well, that's fine, because you still have to register, like I say, for the FA, the rules set by the FA, that even youth competitions, you still have to follow a code of conduct, make sure that the players are unhurt. And because David was very, very, intimidated by it, I would say, I kind of said, well, it's fine, just come on to training, and then when you're ready, you can go on. Perhaps he just needs a bit of time. And it was a good decision made, because then he volunteered and said, can I go on? And he did. So it just goes to show sometimes it takes time. And I talk about sports anxiety because I'm a big lover of sport. It's been in my life throughout. So, and I've seen it myself. I talked about Fatima Whitbread, who was a Great Britain javelin. Javelin. I don't know what to call it. What do they call it? Grassroots? Not grassroots. I can't remember it. Anyway, but basically, in 1988 was when her career took off. But because there were so many countries that were already, top flight at the javelin, she at first didn't have. It's going on to statistics that she wasn't meant to win any kind of medal whatsoever, and she did. So that goes to show that even now, does that take confidence? Yes, it does, because with sport you have to practice and practice till you get it right, and you just have to be. You just sometimes, if you're playing football and you're finding that it's upsetting you and you're not looking forward to going and playing sport, obviously it can be a cause of somebody there. If it's the coach that's doing it, then you can report them to the FA. But I've never come across it myself as such. But the FA are very good. One thing I would say is that if you're a parent and want to run a football team, then try it out. But I would always say to still do your coaching badges, because it can help the anxiety of being a coach. Because even being a sports coach, even though you've done it for years, you can still get anxiety and nervous, because you're there trying to get those players ready, and if they're not playing well, it's like, well, perhaps I've not coached them the right way, and so sports anxiety, for me, sport is what's kept me going, really. I did lose a bit more spark of football because it's become too commercialised, in my opinion. But that's why I started watching lower league football, because I do that. I love watching lower league football. And I've seen it where, even Paul Gascoigne, for example, when he was terrific in playing for England and Newcastle and Tottenham Hotspur, Lazio, Rangers, I think, and he has struggled with, because he's very much like he was very much I will say the joker of the England team. When he stopped playing football, that's when it really got to him. And that's the other thing. If you are a sportsman and you've broken your leg and you can't run anymore, then that can be such a traumatic event, because it's like that person's livelihood has gone down the pan. And so the way I would deal with it, like I did with David, is take some time out from the sport, try something else, or just take a breather from it, just step away from it, do something else, take up, just basically find a way that you can get back into enjoying the sport that you play in. And if you need to say, that things are not working out, and a good a good football manager, for me, is somebody who will sit down and talk to each player if there are any problems and how to solve it. Because obviously it concerns the manager of the club. If it concerned me when David didn't want to play football, because it was like, did I cause that in some way? Because how I did it was that I write an email just to welcome all the parents. Perhaps I should have done it face to face, but I did it that way because I just wanted them to enjoy it and really look forward to it, because so was I, you know. I didn't always get it right, to be honest. I'm not, you know, I work off the cuff a lot of the time, to be honest, and that's how you sometimes have to be as a coach, because even when you plan a session, and you play outdoors, and you're so basically you just need to have that bit of time out, and don't be afraid to sit down. A good coach is somebody who will sit down with a player and say, okay, so what's the real issue? Is it because you fear getting injured? You fear not being able to score a goal? You fear, not getting results? You know, it can be a massive bubble of worry, you know, and it's very hard to get out of that bubble. But the way of doing it is to not withdraw yourself completely, but perhaps still go to the training and spend some time just down and being on the touchline, just so they can get the feel of it. Because once kids see other kids playing football, for example, they will then be like, oh, I want to join in. And that's the way of helping mental health in sport, is to give those who have psychological problems in terms of playing sport. They just need somebody often enough to just sit down and go over them. And if you're a coach, it's important that you sit down with that player and say, okay, what can we do about this situation? What would you want to achieve out of, how we can change your mindset so you look forward to playing football rather than dreading it. And so I'm not going to ramble on too long, but that's basically about sports anxiety. And it is very common, but the way of how I dealt with it as a coach is that I just took each session and each game as they came, and that's the best way of doing it. Don't get too far ahead of yourself, you know, because you can lose your way as a coach when you do that as well. So anyway, I'll be doing more videos like this. This will probably be on my new channel. I am putting together a educational YouTube channel which will have different topics and things that I feel that I want to share that may help you. And rather than you spending loads of money on a course that may not turn out to be yours. Now, I do have an educational network with ThinkFit. What is it called? ThinkFit, I think it's called, and it's a platform where you can create online courses. And I've done some customer service ones, and I've done a child protection course. So if you want to check them out, I'll link them below. But I don't know when this will actually go out, but I just thought that I would film today, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye.